It's Fan Fiction Friday, the first after the Luis Castillo trade rumors really heated up. So let's see what you guys came up with. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, December 13th, 2024. This is Tony Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's Fan Fiction Friday. We'll be reacting to your Mariners trade ideas and grading them on the 20/80 scale based on things like creativity, uniqueness, and of course, viability. But before we get into your trades, shout out to our title sponsor today, Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, that's LOCKEDONMLB, for $20 off your first purchase. And if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, check out our Patreon. All you have to do to check that out is click the link in the description of this episode. So before we get into your trades, this is our final 5-show week of 2024. We'll be back to 5 shows a week when pitchers and catchers report, but we will be on a 3-show-a-week schedule up until that point, starting on Monday. So here's what the schedule is going to look like. Very simple. If you've been around for the last couple of years, you already know how this works. But we will be posting shows here on Locked On Mariners on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then our CTZ shows on our Patreon will be posted on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So obviously, if the Mariners make a trade on a Tuesday or a Thursday or on the weekend, of course, we will record a show. So long as we're able to. But yeah, that is the schedule moving forward for the next 2-ish months. All right, let's get into your trades. Sam has a deal here with the Washington Nationals. Luis Castillo to Washington for Luis Garcia Jr., Mitchell Parker, and Caden Wallace. So the Mariners get a second baseman. They also get a back end of the rotation arm with Parker. And they also get a prospect on top of that for their troubles. What do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. The Nationals are a team that, is kind of letting it be known that they are looking to take a step in 2025 and that they think they can actually compete. But when you look at that roster, their biggest need, bar none, is starting pitching. It is Mackenzie Gore, and that's about it on that staff. So they need pitching help. Their infield is actually pretty flush with young talent, particularly in the high minors. And also, they just got the number 1 overall pick. Good for them. Congrats. So, yeah, they're an interesting team. They've also been linked to Christian Walker, to Pete Alonso, to Gleyber Torres. So they are open to spending money this winter as well. So they're willing to spend. They're looking to take a leap into the playoff contentions next year. They really need starting pitching. And do they have what the Mariners need? Do they have an appropriate headliner? Yes, they do. Luis Garcia is an appropriate headliner. He's not incredible, but you know what? Neither is Triston Casas. But Luis Garcia is a good, solid second baseman who can also play third base and even a little shortstop. He's 20/20 potential, steal 20 bags. He's got 20 home run pop, pretty good average, and just a solid hit. Probably just a 50 hitter, 50 power, 50s across the board. But you get him for 3 years, right? And so he can play second base this year until Cole Young is ready, and then you could slide him over to third. Like, he can do that. He has that versatility. Again, he brings something on the bases. He brings something in the batter's box. He brings something on the field. Parker is a true number 5, but he threw 150 innings last year, give or take. So that is something that the Mariners would value. Wallace is a lottery ticket. Things didn't go particularly well for him last year. Third base prospect, has some power, but probably not a top 15 guy for the Mariners, but a solid prospect. So with the Mariners, I think this is actually what the Mariners would look for in a package. They fill a position of need. They also get another major leaguer with value who fills what would then be a position of need. If you trade Castillo, you need another starter who can eat innings at an above average clip. I think Parker is that guy. And on top of that, they get a lottery ticket and they clear most of Luis Castillo's $24 million salary this year. Garcia is set to make about $6 million in arbitration. You get him for, and like I said, you get Garcia for 3 years. So, yeah, I think this is in the ballpark, certainly for what the Mariners want to do. So, and I do think the Nationals, while, they're not the ideal fit, they're not quite like the Red Sox who have an extra bat to give away. They do have the means and the motive to acquire Luis Castillo and then go out in free agency and, sign Gleyber Torres, which they're already talking to, by the way. So, yeah, I think this is a really interesting idea.
They're talking to Gleyber Torres?
Yeah.
Where did that get reported?
I think it was on Trade Rumors yesterday.
Oh, really? I didn't see that. I totally missed that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. To pretty much echo what you said, I think this checks off all the boxes that we laid out yesterday when we talked about the possibility of a Castillo trade. So, yeah, I think this is pretty much on the mark. The only question here is, would the Nationals do it? For me, I know the Nationals do want to take a step forward here, but is this something specifically that they would do? I don't know. I'll go 55 on this though. Yeah,
I think it's in the ballpark for what the Mariners want. Again, do the Nationals want to do this? They really need starting pitching, and that market is getting thin very fast, so they might not have much of a choice. One alternative that I will throw out there is my own Fan Fiction Friday. You can grade this if you want, Ty. I haven't fully flushed it out, so I just have the very basic tenets of it. But essentially, it's Castillo to the Red Sox, Casas to the Nationals, and Garcia to Seattle. So, the Nationals still get a first base bat, which they desperately need. They need to upgrade at first base as well. And they still he's cheaper, younger than Garcia. They still have Abrams. They still have a couple other prospects who can play second. And again, they're interested in Gleyber Torres. So that's kind of, the outline of a potential 3-team deal that I thought of. So I think it works. Garcia is a good player. He really is a real solid player.
20 because I hate you.
I mean, that's fine.
Daisy and the Dingo has a deal here with the Chicago White Sox and the Tampa Bay Rays, 3-team deal. The Mariners get Andrew Vaughn and a favorite of yours, Colby, Curtis Mead. The Rays get Jake Eater and Teddy McGraw, and the White Sox get Dom Canzone and Ben Williamson.
I know Andrew Vaughn is theoretically a good hitter, even though he doesn't hit good. But he hits the ball hard, and that's the only thing that matters, Ty. He's been a below-average player. I mean, not even an everyday player, barely a major league player, because he is a first base only who doesn't really hit all that much. So does it seem like the type of guy Jerry would go after? Yeah, kind of. First-round pick, major league seasoning. But he is already ARB eligible. He's already hit arbitration, so you're not getting him for free. So that's probably a big hang up here. Again, Curtis Mead, I don't know if the Mariners even like Curtis Mead. No idea. I like Curtis Mead, but I think if you're the Mariners and you're like, hey, we're going to fix first base and third base, those are our priorities, and your solution is Curtis Mead and Andrew Vaughn, even I, like, as a huge Curtis Mead fan, is like, go screw yourself. Like, no. So just, on the outset, just looking at the trade as is, like, it's fine, right? Like, I don't think there's any big value discrepancy here. I don't think Canzone's worth all that much. But Vaughn is worth nothing. But I think they probably like Eater more than they like Canzone or Williamson. So yeah, it just, again, it's a lot of like, hey, you want to swap some prospect trash around and see if the change of scenery works, which is funny. So good job, Daisy, in that regard. I don't know. I think I got to give it like a 50 because it's creative and it's very is it exciting? No. Like if the Mariners made this move, I don't even know we'd pop in with a emergency pod for this, but
we probably would. We're desperate.
Yeah, anything for the clicks. Yeah. But yeah, No,
we totally do this just for the people, Colby.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, my bad.
Oh, the kindness of our hearts for our lovely listeners. Yes.
But Andrew Vaughn sucks. Like, let's just be very clear about that. He's not a good major leaguer. He's not. Like, again,
Colby's also been negatively polarized against Andrew Vaughn over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, just because people treat him like he's a viable alternative, and it's like the dude's not even a big leaguer. Like I would rather run with Tyler Locklear as my first baseman than Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah.
So he's not a good player.
Yeah.
Theoretically, he is though.
This is a 50. It's fun. I can't give it more than a 50 because it's just like all these players are, you know,
like Canzone and McGraw. Are they even worth anything at this stage? No.
McGraw's tough because the elbow stuff.
Williamson's probably the best player getting dealt in this trade though. Or like the most valuable player, I should say. So again, I picked this A because it's funny, B because it's creative, and C just so I could say like out there, if the Mariners try to sell me on an Andrew Vaughn, Curtis Mead, like filling their two biggest needs, there will be hell to pay. Okay.
All right, so we are going to be looking at more of your trades here in just a moment. But first, reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Gametime. So I used to live in New Mexico, and down in New Mexico, there are 0 pro sports teams, and a lot of bands and artists that I listen to skip going there more often than not. So when I moved to Toronto, where there's a baseball team, a basketball team, a hockey team, even a soccer team, and there's great music being played every night in the city, I was right in my element. When I want to catch a ball game or my wife and I want to see a band, I always get my tickets through Gametime. And that was the case well before Gametime sponsored our network and before I even joined the network, because it is truly the best ticketing service out there, hands down. I truly believe that. And now it's getting even better thanks to Gametime Picks. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I can just go on the app, it'll show me the best deal right away, it'll show me the exact view I'll have, and most importantly, it'll tell me exactly what I'm going to pay with Gametime's all-in pricing, so there are no annoying little fees that pop up at the last second. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, that's LOCKEDONMLB, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Fan Fiction Friday. We are looking at your Mariners trade ideas and grading them. Adam has a deal here with the Boston Red Sox. Luis Castillo heading to Boston. Triston Casas, Cutter Crawford, and Nick Sogard heading to Seattle.
Yeah. So obviously Boston has been like the team that we focused on in regards for Luis Castillo. There's a reason why. We know that the Mariners have talked to Boston a lot this winter. Well, I don't know a lot, but more than once, and for always involving the same player, right? Casas. We kind of are, at least I'm kind of getting the sense that the Mariners just don't like Triston Casas. Peter Gammons kind of alluded to that last night, and Peter Gammons is not the guy he was in the industry. You know, when he
that's not someone that you hear from much,
right? But if there is one team that you can kind of take it to the bank with, and when Gammons is talking about them, it's the Red Sox. He's from the area; he's very well connected there, and he has a relationship with the GM Breslow. So, like, even though Gammons isn't really a big player in like the news breaking game or whatever, when he says something, you should still pay attention.
Yeah, it's interesting too. So there was that Alex Spire tweet that we talked about yesterday. Where, you know, he texted his source at the Red Sox and they said no when he asked if there were any legs to a Casas Castillo deal. And I think most of us at least, kind of assume that meant like, oh, from the Red Sox side that they don't want to do Casas for Castillo. But maybe that's from a Mariners standpoint.
Right. There's one thing we should also clarify from the tweet I'm talking about from Peter Gammons. It's a little ambiguous. Yeah. We're not 100% sure if he means that like Breslow tried to talk the Mariners into Casas for Miller or Wu, which we know he did offer.
I'll read it. The hitter the Mariners would love to get is Christian Walker, which for now is out of their price range, as another GM suggested this morning. Craig Breslow is tireless. He's really smart. If he can clear Castillo's money, give Seattle help elsewhere, and allow them to get Walker, maybe he gets Castillo. He also said Casas is born to hit in Fenway. Craig Breslow worked hard with Seattle, but they were not interested in Casas in their park. Ball doesn't travel, hitting background tough.
So again, it's a little ambiguous. Like he tried with Casas in Seattle for Castillo or for Miller and Wu, because we know that he offered Casas for Miller and Wu.
Yeah, we know that.
The Mariners said no to that.
Yeah.
So is Gammons referring to that, or is he referring to the new rumors, which again, I am not going to dispute the sourcing, where the sources are, where Adam Jude and Ryan Divish are getting their sources. We're not here to dispute that. We're not here to question that at all. So it's an interesting thing here is like, hey, because what absolutely still can be true is that Gammons means that the Mariners, Breslow tried to get the Mariners to take Casas for Castillo as well. And the Mariners just are not interested in Casas. They don't like the profile, which is interesting because I think if you look at the hit outlay or whatever, the spray chart or whatever, it actually lines up just fine in Seattle. Mm-hmm. So it must be something different that the Mariners are looking at. Maybe it's just the strikeout rate that we talked about, a little bit. But yeah, this is an interesting deal. But in this deal, the one we're talking about, the Mariners get Triston Casas, but they also get Cutter Crawford, who is a number 5 starter. Like, right? It's different when you say, because what we've heard is Casas and a prospect for Castillo. And it's like, well, if they really want Christian Walker, Casas doesn't make a ton of sense. I mean, they could DH him, and they probably should anyways. But it doesn't make a ton of sense there. But if you're getting Luis Castillo's replacement, and it's a guy who's got a little bit of upside, a little bit of a track record as well, then that might change things, right? You might be interested in that because, again, what you could do is now you don't have to keep Triston Casas. You can go and you can flip Casas somewhere else if you sign Christian Walker. So, yeah, this is an interesting offer. I don't know if the Red Sox would do it, but if you're getting Castillo and Crochet, somebody is exiting that rotation. So Crawford's probably one of the main, one of the
like
guys.
It's not going to be Houck.
No.
Houck is going to stay in that rotation. So
right, it's not going to be what is it, Bayo? Bello?
Yeah.
Bayo,
they just broke him off.
Right,
So.
It's not going to be Crochet. We know that. So they're going to have to dump somebody from this rotation, and if they're going to, push Crawford to the bullpen, which they could, why not just use him to secure Luis Castillo, and then and then the Mariners get a prospect on top of it. So yeah, this is an interesting deal. I don't think that the Castillo to the Red Sox thing is dead. I wouldn't go that far, but it's tough to say right now that the Mariners are that interested in Casas.
So it's interesting. I know we're kind of getting off of the beaten path here and talking more about the Casas situation rather than the trade that was proposed here. But I do wonder if, let's just say they don't like Casas even in a Castillo trade. What are they aiming for here though with Boston? What are they trying to pull off here though?
I mean, the Red Sox have already said they're not trading Mayer. They're not trading Anthony. They're not trading Campbell, Christian Campbell. They're not trading those top prospects. They just traded a couple really good prospects to get Crochet, so those guys are obviously off the board. And they've said that they're not trading Willie or Abreu, and Abreu doesn't make that much sense for the Mariners either, since their outfield is already in a really good spot. So, like, who's the headliner? Because it can't be Cedon Rafaela. Like, dude can't hit. Like, he's not a headliner. Obviously neither is like Vaughn Grissom, right? And it doesn't make any sense to try and, swap Castillo for Trevor Story or Yoshida, because then, like, if you're taking on that much money, then you need Willie or Abreu to even start to think about it. So it's just one of those things where, like, the Red Sox, if the Mariners don't like Casas, I don't know how the Red Sox get it done in a 1-for-1, like 1-2 trade. I don't know how they get that done.
Yeah.
But, like, if the Mariners do like Casas enough and they're just kind of posturing and seeing, maybe they just want to secure Christian Walker, like, know what they can get him at, and then before they make a trade like this. But Casas and Cutter Crawford and Nick Sogard, I think for Castillo, I think that's pretty good.
I think the Mariners would definitely do it, but given some of the things we've heard about Boston.
Boston's a little tough to nail down right now.
I don't think they would do it. Just with what me trying to connect the dots of all the things that have been reported, seems to me like they wouldn't do this. So I don't know. I'm a bit conflicted on this one. I'll just give it a 50.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right, we are going to look at more of your trades here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Fan Fiction Friday, and we got a couple more trades of yours to go over here. Let's look at this one from Trevor. It's a deal with the Cardinals. It's a very similar package to one that we had in our offseason plan. Ryan Helsley and Brendan Donovan to the Mariners for Gregory Santos, Cole Young, Logan Evans, and Jimmy Joyce. In fact, it's pretty much the same trade, except Jimmy Joyce is added. So what are we giving basically our own trade, Colby?
30. Yeah. You get this for less. No. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like the trade market, I haven't seen a lot of like overpays. I mean, we just that's not really an overpay though. Like the trade market doesn't appear to be like getting out of hand. Like Crochet went for about what you would expect Crochet to go for. Kyle Tucker, I mean, that was kind of a weird trade, but it is, like feasible, like it's reasonable, right? Like the trade, Devin Williams trade today, been a busy day. The Devin Williams trade today.
Yeah,
that sure, that makes sense to me. So like the trade market doesn't seem to be like as expensive, but one thing that all these trades have in common, major league piece going back, like in all of them. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if the Cardinals are going to do this without getting a major leaguer, and I just don't know who that major leaguer would be. From
they're getting Gregory Santos, but is he enough of a major leaguer
right now? It's 1 year
to do this deal.
It's 1 year of Helsley, and it's not a fair comparison because the Brewers are going for it this year, and the Cardinals have made it very clear that like we see 2025 as kind of a step back year and kind of a reshuffling year.
Yeah, they're trying to trade Arenado,
right? So
they would
like
love to trade Sonny Gray.
They'd love to trade Arenado too.
Yeah,
but so like you can't look at the Devin Williams thing and be like, oh well, they got a couple years of like a number 4 starter for 1 year of Devin Williams. Like, yeah, because the Brewers are looking to compete this year.
Yeah,
the Cardinals are not. So that makes this a little bit of a sticky situation here. I do think that's roughly in the ballpark. I don't think Jimmy Joyce and Logan Evans really get this over the hump. I do wonder if maybe Matt Brash comes into play here instead of like Santos, because again, Helsley certainly is better than Brash right now, but Brash you get for 4 years. The Cardinals.
I wonder if, generally speaking, that's a card the Mariners need to start pulling here. If major league players, league players are so important in these deals across the board. Yeah. Right.
So I'm still going to give it a 50. I think we're in the ballpark, and I think by extension, then you are too. Donovan's interesting because he's a really good fit for the Mariners, but we haven't heard the Cardinals really shopping Donovan at all, and we haven't heard the Mariners linked to any second baseman in the history of baseball besides Nico Horner right now. So it's an interesting situation. But yeah, I do think like if I were the Cardinals, this is the type of deal I would be interested in. I think I might be able to get more if I trade these guys separately though. So that's probably the route I'm going to go. But yeah, I think we're in the ballpark here.
Adam is back. He has another deal here, this time with the White Sox. Luis Robert Jr. and Chase Midro to the Mariners for Emerson Hancock, Lazaro Montes, and Michael Arroyo. So essentially, Arroyo and Montes for Luis Robert.
Yeah,
that's the crux of the deal here.
Basically,
you paying that still, even with all the potential red flags?
I really don't think I have to. Like, I think Luis Robert's going to get traded this winter, and we're going to be shocked at like how little it cost.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's not going to be like, hey, wow, can you believe the Mariners just got Luis Robert for Emerson Hancock? Like, no, it's not going to be that. But like, I think it's probably like one Michael Arroyo, and like that's it. Because I think what the White Sox are telling us, without actually coming out and telling us, is that the other 29 teams have looked at Luis Robert. They've looked at him and they've said like, no, not really interested in that guy. Because obviously, like, Robert is it. Like, he is the last piece the White Sox have to trade. And they came out a few weeks ago and they're like, yeah, we're not going to give him away for trash. And it's like, so you've been offered trash, in your opinion. We're not going to trade him for a team's 15th best prospect. And it's like, I'm guessing that's the best deal you've gotten then so far, right? So it's one of those things where, like, I'm looking at Robert and just kind of the general reaction to him in a market that is starved for impact bats, and a trade market that's been very reasonable thus far. At least for bats, it's been very reasonable. Like, I look at that and I go like, man, you guys aren't getting any kind of offers for Robert Aria. Like, I think you might be able to get him for Arroyo straight up. Like, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. So if the Mariners did do this trade, wouldn't love it. I mean, there's big risk with Robert. And again, we talked about this. The outfield is generally stacked already.
Yeah.
But the ceiling of Luis Robert, again, is 40 homers, Gold Glove defense in the outfield.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's intriguing. And like, if you're telling me like, hey, the Mariners could acquire a 40 home run guy who plays Gold Glove defense in center field, but it means that you have to put Luke Raley at first base and Robles is kind of the fourth outfielder. You think I'm going to say no to that? Like, just in a vacuum? No, of course not. Like, great. The Mariners have the Robin, or maybe even the Batman. Like, who knows? So yeah, it's an interesting deal. I think you can get him for less though. I really do. I'm starting to think that the trade market for Luis Robert just isn't going to materialize in any way that the White Sox probably could have gotten for him last winter, which is what I think their asking price still is, would be my guess.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's kind of like the Bo Bichette situation in a way, even though we're talking about more club control here. But
probably more risk than Bo Bichette, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at this point, I'd honestly kind of feel bummed if they had to still give up Montes and Arroyo for Robert, which is wild to say. But given everything that you just said, like, I don't know if there's much of a market right now for Luis Robert. Maybe there is. But yeah, I mean, like, look, I'd get over it. I'd be like, all right, cool. I understand why they're doing this. I'm all for taking that shot. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of wonder if you could get him for less than this at this point.
Yeah. It's really tough to trade because, again, the market for Robert is who the heck knows right now. So yeah. I'll give it a 45 because I feel like you're maybe overpaying a little bit than what you have to. Yeah. Than what you're going to have to.
Yeah. So I'll give it a 50. Give out a lot of 50s today. But yeah, I'll give it a 50.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's all the trades. And so that concludes our final scheduled 5-episode week of 2024. We'll be back on Monday. And again, we'll be posting Monday, Wednesday, Friday on here, Tuesday and Thursday on CTZ. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Triston Casas. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Triston Casas and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day and a beautiful baseball weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Peace.